Welcome back to Artifact Cup 30. This is the beginning of round 2. This is going to be the Boneyard for this whole round. Last round was the Shallows. And for our first game in round 2, not that the order matters a whole lot, but I'm just going to cast them in the order in which they appear on the bracket screen so that it's easier for continuity and all that. We are going to be seeing JHS as the Galcian. And on the other side of the map is Noneyadambus in the Coalition carrier.
Rally position designated.
So this is the Boneyard.
Rally position designated.
This was one of the maps that was added in, I want to say the Soban DLC, but maybe as part of the Knef DLC. It was one of the two. It was a secondary edition, and by now we've had it for a while. Pretty big open map. By first appearances, especially around the starting locations. We've got kind of some big dunes here protecting the resource line, but otherwise lots of open firing lines. And as you get into the middle, you get either on this side where there's all these structures that block line of sight, or you have all these dunes over here that block line of sight. So a lot of interesting ways to maneuver around this map.
Destination verified.
And we're still in the beginning of the game, so we don't really see any maneuvering. Neither player seems to have built any quick, fast units or anything like that. JHS, it looks like, has retired as base runner.
Right there.
And Noneyadambus has moved out as base runner, not all the way out into the map, but just sort of sitting on top of this dune. I'm guessing based on our previous game that we saw from Noneyadambus, he's going to be placing a lot of turrets, so we'll watch for that. But in any case, on the Galcian side of the map, JHS is keeping his production cruiser at home. He's gonna go for refinery mode, so kind of a easy eco open. He's got sand skimmer fabrication tech already, so he's not going for like a super hard eco build. He is making sure that he has some technology available and producing a few sand skimmers to scout around, so that's wise. Doing some remote mining. Doesn't look like there's a focus on any particular kind of resource. You know, it looks like he started out on CUs, went on to RUs, then went on to like CUs and then RUs again. And
salvage ready for assignment.
So this strikes me as not a particularly focused build, just from the information that we have so far, which admittedly isn't much. But definitely a flexible one. He's going for fleet cap because he's built well, 3 sand skimmers, but you know, a few salvagers here, so he's going to be bumping up against that fleet cap pretty soon. On the other side of the map, in the coalition forces, we do have a turret from Noneyadambus. We saw a whole lot of this in round 1 in the game that was, I believe, Noneyadambus versus Coercer. And the turret approach didn't really work out that well for Noneyadambus, mainly because the turrets were highly concentrated in one area, and that allowed Coercer to move around those turrets and eventually bombard them down with artillery, because Noneyadambus didn't really have the projection force to be able to do anything about it. So I'm hoping we're going to see maybe a different strategy here from Noneyadambus, but we'll see. In any case, he's got a support cruiser moving out. So he will be able to mine with 4 salvagers here off of his secondary resource zone, and does have 6 salvagers back home. No scouting units, just base runners and turrets so far. So, you know, there was an opportunity probably for JHS to use these sand skimmers that he's currently using just as scouting himself. Really defensive scouting, I should say, because while JHS has great coverage of the main swath of the map, you can see he's kind of like, okay, I don't see anything, I want to learn more, I want to know what's actually going on, so he's going to move these scouts forward.
Acknowledge.
There's a second turret here from Noneyadambus already, and another base runner, and I wonder if base runner inventory, it looks like base runner inventory has been researched, so
sand skimmer taking fire.
I think the sand skimmer was fired upon by the support cruiser, not actually by the turrets. And if you notice, the turrets are placed such that they fire down into the valley, but they cannot fire off the top of the dune and protect the resourcing zone. So if JHS spotted that, he could bring all of these sand skimmers in on an approach over this way, and actually still sit on top of all of these sand skimmers, and maybe even the support cruiser, and take them down. as I say that, Noneyadambus is going to pop out a turret that actually totally negates that. Probably... Oh, it's actually really hard to tell. This turret might be so far on the top of the dune that it can't actually help in either direction. It's really hard to tell exactly where that is going to clip through, but I would say this is at least a potentially vulnerable position, and this is a definitely vulnerable position, even with the carrier power that's going on here. Noneyadambus already has power reserve 2.
Prime charges.
Now JHS is going for a 3rd expansion here, gonna have a much stronger economy than Noneyadambus, and has a railguns already out, assault railguns, and, you know, does have this contingent of sand skimmers, so a lot going on here. I wanted to point out that Noneyadambus is getting assault cruiser fabrication, so he got this as well in his game against Coercer. And the assault cruisers didn't really do terribly well in the shallows. We will see if they do better here. Maybe if Noneyadambus can use them in some of these narrow spaces, then he can maneuver his assault cruisers closer without them being able to be hit by railguns and things like that. So, and yet more turrets. Noneyadambus just loves the turrets. He loves his assault cruisers. He really doesn't seem to have any interest in any other strategy. So, we'll see how this plays out, I guess. JHS is being very cautious. He does have 4 assault railguns out. He still hasn't really poked in beyond just seeing that there are turrets. He hasn't poked in here at all. I would say moving one of these scouts in just to kind of do a flyby here and say, okay, you know, what do you have back home? Do you have tons of turrets back home, or do you just have a carrier? What's going on with that carrier? Does it shoot missiles at me when I sacrifice one sand skimmer on it? You know, that's the kind of information that lets you make decisions that can win you the game. In this case, the decision that could win the game fairly early is move these assault railguns over here, kill some of these salvagers, bring some of the sand skimmers along as well for the fun, and these turrets then don't do anything because you can't move the turrets right over there, and you'd have to relocate his base runners. So Noneyadambus is very focused on defense, and it's kind of a missed opportunity here, I think, maybe to run these turrets on top of one of these dunes.
Destination mark.
But in general, I would say the real criticism for the turret placement here is they're too clustered up. Turrets work really well when you spread them apart such that, you know, one turret can cover another, and you have turret covering another, covering another, covering another, covering another, and but then you still get a huge zone of control, and if you can start kind of doing a pincer and really trap enemy units within a bunch of turret coverage, spreading them all throughout the map, maybe one over here, one over here. Basically, the way JHS has arranged his scouts, if you arrange turrets that way, you gain incredible map control, and you don't even have to spend many units to do it. Map control at this point is firmly in the hands of JHS, who's looking almost just bored with the amount of map control that he's got, and he's just going to grab artifacts all day. He's got a second base runner around to be able to do that with.
Command verified.
This artifact might be covered by these turrets, and there are 3 of them here, so, you know, if these are in range, and I don't know if they are, but if they're in range, they look like it could be, then it's going to be very difficult to grab anything from that artifact zone, especially because JHS is Galaxian and does not have smoke at his disposal. But it doesn't really matter, because JHS has these 2 artifacts. And even if you just had this one, with the lack of force projection that Noneyadambus is doing, JHS could win the game without a fight even really happening.
Moving to destination.
That said, we have 2 assault cruisers out. So these are the things to watch, because these are the units that Noneyadambus likes to use offensively. Or at least, they're the units that Noneyadambus likes to move. And considering how many units Noneyadambus builds that don't like to move, that is saying a lot.
Carrier online, awaiting directive.
Target position set.
JHS amusingly is building tons of missile ships,
Systems active.
which makes sense from his point of view. You know, there's not really much going on offensively. You think, okay, there's probably aircraft coming. There's probably a lot of aircraft stacked up inside this carrier. But reality is, it's not aircraft. It's turrets. And it's assault cruisers. Noneyadambus now is gonna have, let's see, he's moving his carrier back out, leaving this very weak. Oh, because there are no turrets here, and there's no longer a carrier to defend this resource zone. So there are assault cruisers here. But this now has become a very vulnerable position, and it's going to be interesting to see if JHS can suss that out.
Hostile assault cruiser spotted.
3 assault cruisers now here from JHS, or excuse me, for Noneyadambus, and JHS sees it. These structures here have allowed these assault cruisers to get in close on the assault railguns and do a little bit of damage, taking out at least one. Some damage done to this assault cruiser, so that's something to be careful of for Noneyadambus, especially because he's no longer in range of his turrets. But he's going to be able to get up on this dune. That's going to allow him to possibly skirmish and fire some missiles over. He's going to use that missile ability now. It's going to take out one railgun, maybe hit another one. Well, really, it's just the main fire from that assault cruiser that damaged a couple railguns. I think this is really a bad trade still, especially with these heavy railguns here from JHS. Brilliantly positioned on the other dune, able to get at best a neutral, well, at least a neutral advantage, but also possibly a high ground advantage against some of those units. And 2 assault cruisers go down for what amounts to really 4 railguns at most. Because there was a sand skimmer or 2 that went down, so probably only a couple. And now here, this, oh, I can't believe I missed this. JHS is also sort of missing it right now too, but there's no turrets here. This is just a support cruiser and a main resourcing zone, totally free for the picking. And now this one assault cruiser from Noneyadambus is just left running. JHS unfortunately left time for this Noneyadambus carrier to come back, but at least one salvage is going to go down. It has to. These are upgraded, damage upgraded, and speed upgraded. There's a sand skimmer rating and sand skimmer damage upgraded sand skimmer. So the salvage is going to go down, the support cruiser is going to run, the carrier's going to have to come back here. Turrets aren't going to do anything about it. This assault cruiser's on the run. It should really be hugging the dune so that it can get close to these railguns, but it's a little scared probably by these railguns over here, which do outrange the turrets. More assault cruisers coming out. Now assault cruisers are a really good counter to strike craft, so these salvagers are now safe, as long as these assault cruisers hang around. We're going to see if this turret can actually hit these sand skimmers. It might not be able to. These turrets now are doing a whole number on those railguns there, but you know, if the heavy railguns just get scouting here and stay out of range, they might be able to still take out the turrets.
Strike craft destroyed.
Rally position marked.
Hostile craft detected. Prosecute. Railgun is being engaged.
More artifacts being... Oh, excuse me. I guess JHS went to the wrong extraction zone. Well, he found his extraction zone now. He's got 2 artifacts on the way there. Interesting that Noneyadambus, you know, he's got all these turrets, but he didn't put any in the extraction zone. That would have been a nice move. Because these unawares base runners would have been destroyed there, but Noneyadambus not so hot on the turret positioning, not so hot on the assault cruiser positioning.
Vehicle rendering complete. Artifact extraction confirmed.
And I'm trying to figure out what it is about turrets and assault cruisers is supposed to work in tandem. What is the combo here? There's no real counter to railguns, because railguns outrange turrets, and railguns outrange assault cruisers. Now, there's carrier power here, and with Power Reserve 4, maybe the idea is you outrange using the range systems, using your carrier, and you take out railguns that way, and eventually you get a nuke, and that's how you take out blobs like this. But the problem is, blobs like this, until you have a nuke, can do this, and Noneyadambus may lose his carrier right now. I think it's going to happen. There's nothing he can do about it.
Railgun destroyed by enemy forces.
So there you go.
Lost. Repeat. Group 2. The heretics have been repelled.
Well, JHS did everything exactly right. Maybe a little too passively. He did not invade aggressively, I would say, and maybe he was just super. I mean, look, he's got 5 missile ships out on the field. In 4 positions. He was definitely paranoid that there were aircraft. He was afraid that there were 12 strike fighters hanging out in there, and 2 precision bombers, and, you know, a gunship, and that everything would be at risk because he had this railgun heavy force. And what's the natural counter to railguns? Well, you build aircraft. But Noneyadambus kind of kept building the things that railguns weren't going to worry about. So my advice to Noneyadambus: build different kinds of units. Don't clump up your turrets. Build maybe fewer turrets. I don't think I've ever seen anybody build that many turrets. And it's not really working out that well. If you do want to build turrets, check out what BBI Ian does. He's the community manager for Black Bandit interactive, and he does have a turret-heavy strategy. Especially check out his games on Kalash Teeth from some of the previous Artifact Cups. He's very effective with those turrets, and he places just a few of them and gets much more done than this, because he's controlling zones on the map with great turret placement. So that's my advice. Check that out. And thank you for watching. I'm going to move on to more games in Artifact Cup 30 Round 2.